Hello students, today's topic of my lecture is internal direct product. In my last lecture, I have explained what is direct product and external direct product. The basic difference between the external direct product and the internal direct product is that in external direct product, we take some small groups, G1, G2, G3, dot, dot, so on, Gn, you can say, and by them, we can form a larger group G, depending upon the elements of G1, G2. But in case of internal direct product, we see that can we find a direct product within a group G? So what we take, we find some subgroups in that group and we find the direct product such that direct product will be equal to the group. And that is why it is called internal direct product. If we can take G be a group and H1 and H2 be two subgroups of G, then you know the identity element is same in group and subgroup. So identity element E of G will be the identity element of H1 and H2. And the properties of internal direct product are such that we will discuss it in the later theorem, and also we prove it. But the properties are that the only common element in H1 and H2 is that identity element E. And the second thing is G is isomorphic to H1 cross the product of H1 and H2. And third thing is G is isomorphic to direct product of H1 and H2. And G is equal to H1 into H2. Then those type of product we are called internal direct product. So we are going to define it. If a group G is internal direct product of two of its subgroup H1 and H2, then the only common element between H1 and H2 must be the identity element, the very first thing. The second thing is G is isomorphic to H1 cross H2, that is direct product of H1 and H2. So we are going to prove this theorem. So let A belongs to G be any arbitrary element, and we have to show that the only common element between H1 and H2 is, that is H1 intersection H2 is singleton E. So we take, if possible, let A be any element of G which is common in both H1 and H2. Now A inverse is inverse of A in G. Since H1 and H2 are subgroups, so A inverse will belong to H1 and H2 both. Now let X is equal to H1, H2, where H1 belongs to capital H1, H2 belongs to capital H2, and X will be an element of G. So now we can write X is equal to H1 E H2 because E is identity element, so we can write it with any element this. And now since A inverse is the inverse of A in G, so A inverse equal to E, so we replace E by A inverse, and by associativity we get this X can be equal to H1A into A inverse H2. Let it be equation number 1. Since H1 belongs to capital H1 and A is also in H1, so H1A belongs to capital H1 as H1 is a subgroup. Now A inverse belongs to both H1 and H2, so A inverse belongs to H2 and H2 belongs to, small h2 belongs to capital H2. So this implies what? A inverse H2 belongs to capital H2. Since G is the internal direct product of H1 and H2, so there exists an arbitrary element X belonging to G such that which can be expressed uniquely as product of elements of an element of H1 and an element of H2, like this, X is equal to H1 H2. So by expression of X is unique, so by equation 1 and 2, we have H1A is equal to H1. So this can be written as H1A is equal to H1E, where E is the identity element. Now we use cancellation law, so we get A equal to E. So we taken any element A other than identity belonging to H1 intersection H2, which is common in both H1 and H2, and we will able to prove that A is equal to identity. So E is the only element which is common in both the subgroups H1 and H2. So first part of theorem is proved. Prove the second part, which says that you have to show that G is isomorphic to H1 cross H2. So if X be any element of G, then X can be written in the form of H1 H2, where H1 belongs to capital H1 and H2 belongs to capital H2. So we have to show there must be a isomorphism between these two, G1, G and H1 cross H2. To prove this as an isomorphism, first of all, we have to define a mapping between these two, G and H1 cross H2. And then we have to show this mapping is isomorphism, that is, it is 1-1 on 2 and composition preserving. So for that, first of all, we are going to define a mapping from G to H1 cross H2 defined by phi x. That means X is an element of G. Phi x is equal to H1 H2, where H1 H2 is an element of H1 cross H2, where small h1 belongs to capital H1 and small h2 belongs to capital H2. Under this definition of mapping phi, we have to show this phi is an isomorphism. If we will able to do this, then easily we have the theorem that G is isomorphic to H1 cross H2. So to prove this as an isomorphism, first of all, we have to show phi is 1-1. So for that, let X and Y be two any arbitrary elements of G, such that X is equal to H1 H2 and Y is equal to G1 G2. Now H1 and G1 belongs to H1 implies H1 into G1 belongs to H1, and H2 and G2 belongs to H2 implies H2 G2 belongs to H2. Now we consider phi x equal to phi y. The images will be equal to. If we are able to show x equal to y, then this mapping is 1-1. So by definition 1, we have phi x is equal to H1 H2 and phi y is equal to G1 G2. This implies we get H1 equal to G1 and H2 equal to G2. So this implies H1 H2 is equal to G1 G2. This implies x equal to y. So phi is 1-1. Now we have to show phi is onto. For onto, we have to show we take any element from the range. Here the range is H1 cross H2, and we will show that it is image of any element of domain. That means for every element of range, we must have an element in the domain such that that element in range is image of that element of domain. So let small h1 belonging to capital H1 and small h2 belonging to capital H2 such that h1 h2 belongs to h1 cross h2 be arbitrary element of h1 cross h2. So since h1 is and h2 are subgroups of G, so all the elements of h1 and h2 are in G. So h1 and h2 will also be in G. So h1 h2 belongs to G as a G is group, such that under this definition phi of h1 h2 equal to h1 into h2. So this implies phi is onto. First we have shown that phi is 1-1, h1 h2 is equal to G1 G2, x equal to y, so phi is 1-1. Now we have shown that phi is onto. Now to show it is isomorphism, it is left to show phi preserves composition. That means what? Let x and y be any two arbitrary elements of G such that x equal to h1 h2 and y is equal to G1 G2, where h1 G1 belongs to capital H1, h2 G2 belongs to capital H2. So now we consider phi xy. Phi xy will be h1 h2 into G1 G2, and now we can write it as h1 G1 into h2 G2. So since phi is homomorphism, we have to show isomorphism. By definition, this mapping, by definition of phi, what we have seen that phi of h1, phi of x equal to h1 h2. We have shown that. So the phi of h1 G1 into h2 G2 will be equal to h1 G1 into h2 G2. And this is what? This is h1 h2 into G1 G2. So this is equal to phi x into phi y. Phi xy is equal to phi x into phi y. That means what? Phi preserves composition. So phi is an isomorphism between G and H1 cross H2. So G is isomorphic to H1 cross H2. Now, to prove the second theorem, which says that if a group G be internal direct product of subgroups H1 and H2, then you have to show that H1 and H2 are normal subgroups of G, and these normal subgroups are G upon H1 isomorphic to second group H2, and G upon H2, these are the quotient groups, and it is isomorphic to H1. So first of all, we are going to show that if G is internal direct product of two subgroup H1 and H2, then these H1 and H2 are normal subgroups. So since G is internal product of H1 and H2, that means what? So for any x belonging to G, we must have x is equal to H1 and H2, where H1 belongs to capital H1 belongs to capital H1 and H2 belongs to capital H2. Now we defined a mapping phi from G to H1 by phi x equal to phi H1 into H2. Phi x is equal to phi H1 into H2 is equal to H1. Let it be equation number 1. So firstly, we show phi preserves group composition. For that, let x and y be any two elements of G, which are arbitrary elements. So that implies x equal to H1 H2, small h1 H2, and y is equal to small g1 G2, where H1 G1 belongs to capital H1 and H2 G2 belongs to capital H2. So now consider phi of x y, which will be equal to H1 H2 G1 G2. This can be written as H1 G1 into H2 G2, and this can be written as H1 G1. H1 G1 into H2 G2, and this can be written as phi of H1 H2 into G1 G2. So this is phi of x into phi of y, so phi preserves composition. Now we show phi is onto. For that, let H1 belongs to capital H1 be arbitrary. So this implies there exists some H2, small h2 belonging to capital H2, such that H1 H2 belongs to G. By definition 1, we have phi H1 H2 equal to H1. This is the definition of phi we have taken. Phi H1 H2 is equal to H1. Similarly, we will get here phi of H1 G1 into H2 G2 is equal to H1 G1. So phi is onto. So this implies phi is a homomorphism of G onto H1. So phi H1 is homomorphic image of G. Now, by definition of kernel of homomorphism, kernel is the set of all those elements of the domain of a mapping, homomorphism mapping, which are mapped onto the identity element of the range. So first of all, we are going to define the kernel of this mapping, that is phi. So kernel of phi is what? Those elements of G, that is x, which are mapped onto the identity element of H1. So phi x is equal to E. So x belongs to G implies phi x equal to E, x equal to Ex. So x belongs to G, that is x belongs to H2. So kernel of phi must be what? Kernel of phi is H2. So this implies kernel of phi is H2. Since kernel of homomorphism is a normal subgroup, so kernel of phi is equal to H2 is a normal subgroup of G. Since H2 is a normal subgroup of G, so we know with the help of every normal subgroup, we can find a factor group or quotient group. So G upon H2 is a quotient or factor group. By fundamental theorem of homomorphism, you know the fundamental theorem of homomorphism, we have every quotient group is isomorphic to some of its subgroup, normal subgroup. So by that, we have this quotient group will be isomorphic to H1. Similarly, we can show that H1 is a normal subgroup of G, and G of upon H1 is isomorphic to H2. It can be shown very easily by replacing H1 and H2 with each other. So that is the first theorem that I have proved that if G be a internal product of two of its subgroup H1 and H2, then H1 and H2 are normal subgroups. Furthermore, we have the factor group G upon H1 is isomorphic to H2, and factor group G by H2 is isomorphic to H1. Now we are going to show the next theorem, which is the definition of internal direct product, which says that the necessary and sufficient condition for a group G to be an internal direct product of two of its subgroup H1 and H2. I have already told you these properties of definition. That is, H1 and H2 are normal subgroup of G. We have already proved it. And H1 intersection H2 is equal to E. And third is H1 G equal to H1 into H2. First, we assume that conditions are necessary. Let G be an internal direct product of H1 cross H2. That is, G is equal to H1 cross H2. So, if small x belongs to capital Z, so if x belongs to G can be expressed as product of elements of H1 and H2. So let small h1 belongs to capital H1 and small h2 belongs to capital H2. So x equal to h1 into h2. Now we have to show that h1 is a normal subgroup of G. So let A belongs to H. A belongs to H1 be arbitrary. So x belongs to G implies x inverse belongs to G. So now we consider x A x inverse. So we have taken x is equal to h1 h2. So we have this h1 h2 A h1 h2 inverse. So this will be equal to h1 and h2 into A, and this by reversal law h2 inverse into h1. So this can be written as by associativity that h1 and bracket h2A h2 inverse h1 inverse. So this implies this is equal to h1A h2 h2 inverse, since h1 commute with each element of h2. It is given for internal direct product. So this is what h1A h2 h2 inverse h1. So this implies h1A into A h1 inverse. So this implies h1 AE h1 inverse by associativity. And this is what? This is h1 A h2 belongs to h1 capital H1. So x A x inverse belongs to capital X1. So that's the first theorem, first part of the theorem, that h1 is a normal subgroup. Similarly, we can show that h2 is also normal subgroup. So there's nothing to prove. We have already proved that h1 intersection h2 is singleton set E in the previous theorem, so there's no need of proving this. So only part which is left is what we have to show G is equal to h1 into h2. h1 into h1. So to prove G equal to h1 h2, we will show that one time we show G is contained in h1 h2, then h1 h2 is contained in G, so we will be able to prove equal. Since h1 is a subgroup of G and h2 is a subgroup of G, and x be any arbitrary element of h1 into h2, so h will be h1 into h2, where h1, small h1 belongs to capital H1 and small h2 belongs to capital H2 are unique elements. Now, small h1 belongs to capital H1 implies small h1 belongs to G, as a G is group and h1 is subgroup. So h2 belongs to capital H2. H2 belongs to capital H2. This implies H2 belongs to G. So now H1 belongs to G and H2 belongs to G. This implies H1, H2 belongs to G by closure law. So this implies H1, H2 is what? X. X belongs to G. So this implies H1, H2. The product is contained in G. So now let X belongs to G be arbitrary and G is equal to H1 cross H2. So this implies there exists some unique element H1 belonging to capital H1 and H2 belonging to capital H2 such that X is equal to H1 H2. So small x which is taken from G will be in H1 into H2. So H1 H2 is contained in G. G is contained in H1 H2. And previously we have proved that H1 H2 is contained in G. So combining 1 and 2, we get G is equal to H1 into H2. Now conversely, we have to show G be a group and H1, H2 are any two subgroup of G satisfying the given conditions of inner product. We have to show G is an internal direct product of H1 and H2. That is G is equal to H1 cross H2. Now, in order to show that each element of H1 commutes with each elements of H2. And each element of G can be uniquely expressed as product of elements of H1 and elements of H2. So let small h1 belongs to capital H1 and h2 belongs to capital H2 be arbitrary. H1, H2 belongs to G, since by condition 1, H1 is a normal subgroup of G, so this implies we can write it H2 inverse H1 into H2 inverse, which can be written by this. And this can be easily done this. And now by condition 1, H2 is a normal subgroup of G. So H1 inverse H2, H1 inverse H1 belongs to H2. So H1 inverse H2 into H2 H1 H1 inverse G is belongs to H2. So this implies H1 inverse H2 H1 into H2 inverse belongs to H2. Combining 1 and 2, we see that H1 inverse H2 H1 H2 inverse. So we have shown by combining 1 and 2, we have H1 inverse H2 H1 into H2 inverse belongs to H1 intersection H2. But we know that the only element common in both H1 and H2 is identity. So this element must be equal to identity. So by multiplying the left hand side of both sides by H1 and right hand side by H2, we have H1E H2 pre-multiplying by H1 and post-multiply by H2 on both sides. So by using associativity, this will be equal to H1 H1 inverse H2 into H1 into H2 H2 inverse, and this is H1E into H2. So you know this will be equal to identity, and this will also be equal to identity. So we get E into H2 H1 into E is equal to H1 H2. This implies E is identity. We get H2 H1 equal to H1 H2. So each element of H1 commute with each element of H2. This is very important property if we have an internal direct product. Now we show X is equal to H1 into H2 is unique, where H1 belongs to capital H1 and H2 belongs to capital H2. If possible, let X can be expressed as G1 and G2 be another expression where X over X, where G1 belongs to capital H1, G2 belongs to capital H2. So this implies X is equal to H1 H2 and this will be equal to G1 G2. So this is H1 H2 is equal to G1 G2 by multiplying both sides and post multiplying both sides by H2 inverse. So G1 inverse and H2 inverse, we multiply both sides of the equation pre and post. By using associativity, you will get this. By using this is identity element. This will be equal to G1 inverse H G2 inverse. So by associativity, we get this, and by using once again associative law, we get G1 inverse H1 into E is equal to E G2 into H2 inverse. And this implies we have G1 inverse into H1 is equal to G2 into H2 inverse. Let it be equation number 3. Now G1 belongs to H1, so G1 inverse belongs to H1. H1 belongs to capital H1. This implies G1 inverse into H1 belongs to capital H1. Similarly, G2 is an element of H2 and H2 is an element of H2, capital H2. So this implies H2 inverse will be in H2, and so this will be equal to G2 into H2 inverse belongs to H2. So putting in the equation 3, we get G1 inverse into H1 belongs to capital H1 and G1 inverse G1 inverse H1 belonging to capital H2. So in both the set this element belongs to, it will be in the intersection of these two. Similarly, we can show that G2 inverse into H2, G2 into H2 inverse belongs to H2, and G2 into H2 inverse belongs to H1. This implies this element belongs to H1, H2. And H1 intersection H2 is E. So this implies G1 into G1 H1 inverse and G2 into H2 inverse equal to E. So by taking this with E, you will get G1 into G1 inverse into H1 is equal to G1. So this can be solved and you will get H1 equal to G1. And similarly, G2 into H2 inverse into equal to E. So G2 into H2 inverse, H2 equal to this, and we get this. So hence, each element X is uniquely expressed as the product of elements of H1 and an element of H2. So if G is an internal direct product of capital H1 and capital H2, so G is equal to H1 cross H2. So this is my lecture on internal direct product. I hope you all have understand it. And so this is the second topic of my topic of direct product. First we see the inner product, and now internal, that is external direct product, and now internal direct product. Hopefully you all understand about it. So now take care. Thank you.